Hola estudiantes, me llamo Net y soy tu profesora de español este semestre. Bueno, soy su profesora de español este semestre, hablando al grupo. Um, Estoy muy emocionada para practicar el español con ustedes este semestre. Hello, my name's Annette. I'm your Spanish instructor this semester, and I'm very excited to practice Spanish with you. You can see I started off in Spanish. I always have done that in face to face classes. I say, me llamo Annette. ¿Cómo te llamas tú? And I gesture to one student. And even if you don't know any Spanish, you pick up quickly that I'm saying my name and asking you for your name. And you can see that you can already start to speak some Spanish, even without someone saying, this is how you say this in Spanish using English. You can do that from context. I really believe in using that learning at least to a certain extent. I used to speak Spanish maybe 99% of the time in class. I do that a little bit less now because I think that in order for immersion to work, you really need a lot of contact hours, and we don't always have that in this environment. So, but in any case, I do believe that it will help if you put some of that into your practice time where you're listening to Spanish without English translations. There will be some times where you don't understand everything. That's completely normal. That's how you learn English, and you can pick up another language that way. It can just take a little bit more time re-listening and those kind of things. You don't need to do that 100%. I think it's a matter of you figuring out what your goals are and what works for you. But I just wanted to mention that. And along with that, a lot of people say that it is super easy for little kids to learn another language and it's harder for teenagers or adults. Our brains do change, and that's true to a certain extent. Like around 10 months, they say your brain stops noticing difference between different tones in Chinese. If you're not learning Chinese, your brain doesn't need to recognize those differences. You can pick that back up by exposure, but you have to kind of open your brain back up to that. However, when people say it's easy for a child to learn a language, even their first language, I think that that's from the adult's perspective watching that happen. But children do not start speaking their language the first day they're born. It takes a lot of time where they're only hearing the language. And then they start making sounds. And then they start saying some words. And then they start saying some phrases. We don't always understand what they're saying. The parents are more likely to understand than other people because they're accustomed to the way the child is trying to make meaning from sounds. And they're connecting that to those meanings. But someone from the outside might not understand what the child is saying. So that doesn't sound easy to me. It's a long process. And children get frustrated, and children try to communicate things, and their caregivers don't understand what they're saying right away. So it's not always comfortable, I don't think. It's not as easy as we make it out to be, I don't think. It's a process. And that's the same thing when you're a teenager or adult. The thing is that we expect it to happen more quickly. And also, little children are used to not understanding what they're told 100% of the time. They're used to that. That's their common experience. When we start getting older, it starts making us more uncomfortable. We want to understand every single thing that's said to us. We feel uncomfortable if we don't. Someone's going to be grading me. How do I know if I'm going to get a good grade? Those kind of things. And children hopefully don't have the same kind of worries like, a 2-year-old. We're not grading them, I hope. So I want you to know that that's just a normal part of the learning experience. And if you can relax and just do it for fun as much as possible. I know it's not just for fun because you're getting a grade, but a lot of your grade in this class is just engaging it in the process. So if you realize this is normal, I'm just going to have fun with it. It's a class. Nothing's going to happen that's bad if I accidentally say the wrong word. that can help in the process, because studies show that if we have too much anxiety, like a little bit of anxiety is important. We have to care. If we don't care at all, then we're not going to learn. But if we have too much anxiety, they say it lowers your IQ by like 10 points at the time that you're having that anxiety. So you have to be somewhere in the middle, like just a little bit nervous, but also having fun with it and not super scared and thinking that something terrible is going to happen if you make a mistake. That's just part of the process. So kind of just go with it, relax, have fun. Let's have fun getting to know each other in Spanish. Okay, so let's look at the syllabus a little bit. Hopefully everything works out. I just made this video and the sound didn't come out, so I'm doing it over again. You can see I got to the syllabus and calendar through Blackboard, so you can do that anytime you need to. Let's see, I am going to take my video off so that you can see the syllabus bigger, hopefully. Okay. So this class is online, so there aren't any meeting times listed, but I always like to have optional meeting times virtually, face-to-face, or a combination where we'll meet face-to-face, whoever wants to, but we'll also log in virtually for whoever wants to join us in that way. I do that because we don't have enough students studying a language right now to have a ton of different sections. We actually only have one, and online is the one that allows most people to take it. But I know some students would prefer face-to-face or synchronous virtually. So I try to have that available for y'all too and record as many sessions as possible. Sometimes it doesn't make sense if we're just playing games to practice or something like that. But if it's conversation and going over grammar and stuff, I'll record those. But I'm just waiting to see what works for most students. So let me know if you have any requests. I sent out a survey for y'all to answer. So far, the most requested is either evening or weekends, I believe. So we'll see how that works out. Office hours, it said to be announced first week of class, but these are the office hours: Monday and Wednesday, 7 to 7:50 a.m. by email, Tuesday and Thursday, 2 to 3:40, and liberal arts, 2:01. I just have those there because we have to list 5 hours and we can't list more than 5 hours. But by email, I'm available anytime that I'm not, in a doctor's appointment, or which, I mean, isn't that often, but if I'm not in some kind of a meeting or with students, I'm checking my email throughout the day. So you can email me at any time. You can email me in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. You're not going to bother me because I have my sound turned off on my phone at night. I check it in the morning. So you should hear back from me relatively quickly. 24 hours at the latest, but normally much sooner than that, except maybe a weekend if I go out of town, which I'm not planning on. But if I went out of town, went camping, maybe you wouldn't hear back from me over the weekend until that Monday. But besides that, you'll hear back from me quickly. I get to you quicker through email than through the Blackboard messages, because email, if I'm studying or working on things, I have my email open. So I'm seeing if emails are coming through. But Blackboard, I have different classes. I can't be logged into all of them at the same time. So it would take a little bit longer, but still should be within 24 hours. The Tuesday and Thursday, 2 to 3:40, will be for where we can do a conversation practice. And if you come to that, whatever conversation practice we do in class, you don't have to do outside of class in the discussion board posts. Either way is perfectly fine. But this time is open to beginners and intermediate students. So it depends on who comes, and we can play games, we can work through grammar, we can do whatever based on the students who show up. But I'm also going to set up some time specifically for your class if you all would like that. This class is 4 hours credit, but it's 5 contact hours. What that means is if you were taking this just face-to-face in a 16 weeks course, you would be face-to-face 5 hours a week. And then you have homework, study outside of that. In an 8 weeks class, it means if it were face to face, you would be in class 10 hours a week. That's a combination of lecture and lab. So what I would say is your minimum amount of time in this course should be 10 hours a week, because that's how much time you would be in class if it were face to face. So schedule that into your calendar. You might have some beyond that, but when you're doing online, you might be able to get through the material more quickly, because, if I have 20 students in a class, I actually do try to get everyone to speak, several times during the class. There is a lot of interaction in my classes. Whereas if you're working on it by yourself, you don't have to wait for other students and that interaction. So you might be able to go through it more quickly. But you should have a minimum of 10 hours. It's about engaging in the material, even if you already know Spanish. It's about making a different kind of connection with it. But if you already know Spanish and use it, some of that can count for the 10 hours. But it's about becoming conscious of, why am I choosing this form? How does this language work? Because when we learn it just naturally, we're not always aware of exactly how the language works. And when you become educated in a language, you start becoming aware, oh, that's what I'm doing to a certain degree. Let's see. Um, I'll let y'all look over some of these things on your own, because I don't want to make an hour-long video. But the book is free online. A lot of people still want paper, but with online books, it gives you a lot more options for learning. I have videos that go with the topic. That's very important to hear native speakers speaking the language from different places around the world. And you'll hear some non-native speakers speaking as well. And seeing that Spanish is an international language used by people who have grown up speaking it and people have learned it later, and it's spoken in many places around the world. So that's very important. Also, in the book, you have self-checked exercises. You can type your answers in on the page where the grammar is explained and check yourself right then. Send me an email if you don't understand something. So it gets checked inside of the textbook. And so that's very important. If you want something on paper, then I don't know that this textbook is the best thing to put on paper, because it's not meant for that really. It's meant for the online environment. But if you want something on paper, let me know. I might send out a message anyway of very, very low cost things that you can, have something in front of you to look at. We just don't want students to be responsible for paying for $100 or more book. So this one is free to you, and it actually, I kind of can't go back to the paper as easy anymore when I'm learning another language, because so much is missing from that modality. Your grades are based on 20% is learning logs, and that's just engaging with the material. I write down the learning objectives. You tell me what you did to practice for each one, and I trust you, and you get 100% for completing that. So some students see that as busy work, and I understand, why should I have to write it down? But I think it helps you become aware of if you're doing enough to learn each topic, and I can give you feedback if you're like, I don't get this, or, but that's a way for me to give you grade without seeing the actual work you're doing and without making you responsible for specific assignments. It's more like choose your own adventure. Participation in attendance is 10%. That you can complete in the discussion board posts. So it's interactive. You speaking in a way you would speak if you were in a face-to-face class, similar, but of course it's not the back and forth things. Or you can come to class to do that. You can do the activities if you want to do it on Pear Deck Tutor with another Spanish speaker. That's fine if you want to get together with a classmate, but you'll have to kind of let me know if you want to do one of those. Discussion board posts are the main where I give you the grade for that. But if you come to class, we'll do some of those topics together, and then I'll give you 100% and you won't have to do them online. So that's up to you. Quizzes are 10%. They're over the grammar that you're responsible for on the test, and that's to help you see if you're ready to be tested over those topics. But first, you want to do the practices on the learning log so that you're ready to take the quiz, and the quiz is just to double check to see that you are. Composition is worth 10%. A composition sounds kind of scary when you're first learning a language, but it's will be over things we've done over and over in class. You have a rough draft, no points taken off for mistakes there. I give you feedback, you make corrections, and then you get graded on the final draft. So that should help your grade. It's just a letter to an Imagine foreign exchange student who's coming here, and you're introducing yourself and your family or your friends. So that won't be too bad when we get to it. Oral interview also can sound scary. I ask you questions in Spanish, you answer in Spanish, but you have a study guide of possible questions. The first question is, ¿Cómo te llamas? So just asking your name. You could say, Me llamo Annette, for example. Presentation, skit, or video. I'm opening this up more than I used to have it open. I used to have you have it memorized and give it face to face or virtually, but now you can make a video if you want to. So you would be able to read some from notes that you have on the screen that maybe we can't see, but that can help you because you can do that in real life. So why shouldn't you be able to do it in class? That should help you. Just need to practice to get your confidence up. And then 5 lesson tests. There are so many because then that helps you be responsible for less on each test, and that can really help in 8 weeks. As far as grades, I have okay. Well, read over course policies, please. But scrolling down to the calendar, I've had things broken up by week, not specific due dates. On Blackboard, there are specific due dates, but that's just to help you through the material in the way that makes sense to me. So, like I said, minimum of 10 weeks, 10 hours per week. I know students are busy with other classes and work, and some think I can just do this in one day. That doesn't make the most sense for learning a language. So I definitely recommend you spread it through the week, even if it's just 30 minutes some days, or, some time is better than no time. But I've broken up in a way that makes more sense to me. And it's more broken up than even it would be maybe in a face-to-face class, perhaps. But that's because the daily practice makes sense. However, you have until Tuesday after any due date to get that work in. Blackboard will tell you have a 0. Don't worry about it. You get it done by the Tuesday after that, you're fine. The 0 will go away. You won't have any points taken off. If you need longer than that, email me to let me know what's going on. But yeah, so most of you are adults. If not, you're working towards that responsibility. So I do want to give you some freedom. The due dates are to help you stay on top of things, but they're not set in stone. So if you know your own schedule and you can figure out if you need things done on different days, don't worry about that, except at the end of the semester. So because I don't have freedom as far as that goes, our final is March the 6th. That's final day. I have to turn my grades in that day, so I can't give you any extra time. So if you know that you can't do anything on a Thursday because it's due Thursday at 10 a.m., then you need to schedule that earlier. If something unexpected comes up, illness that prevents you from doing it, something extreme, email me so I can give you an incomplete. Other than that, we don't have freedom in that last week. So be very careful about the due dates, the week 7 and week 8, so you can complete everything. Thing to say. So this is an 8 weeks class, and some students have said they would prefer this in 16 weeks class. That's not up to us. We're trying to go all 8 weeks. That's what the administration says. That study shows students do better that way. But some students feel so uncomfortable with this much material in 8 weeks. And I've taken material out because I felt like it was just too much in 8 weeks, even though you should just double up on the time. Still, I feel like we need sleeping time to absorb even, and you don't have you can't put extra hours in your day. So, I've taken some things out, but it's still a lot. However, I want you to know that sometimes when students say they need 16 weeks, they're thinking that they should be reaching perfection in these topics in 8 weeks. That is not the case. You engage with the material, you grow with your understanding. You're not going to get to the point where you're making zero mistakes or you can't learn more. I can learn more. Everyone can learn more at this basic level if you see it in a certain sense. For example, culture. I put a lot of options down for videos to watch. I have not watched all of them. If I limit you to what I've seen, you know, you have fewer options. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. I cannot know everything in Spanish. Even at a beginning level, there are so many directions you can go with the topics that it's impossible for you to reach perfection and know everything about it, even in your first language. A website I use, Vertal, for using vocabulary. I do not know all of those words in English. That's life. Once we get a certain basic vocabulary, we each go on our own directions depending on our interests, what our career is going to be. We're not going to learn all the words in the world. So the way this class is structured, I kind of let you glimpse real world. This is so much, there's so much out there. And sometimes I think students are like, but I'm not done learning this. You're not going to be done learning it. It's about engaging and growing from where you are. So if you look at it that way, I think it'll help you be more comfortable to know that's just life, to where, it's just about what do I want to learn? I mean, some of these things, like you need to learn all the regular verb conjugations, obviously. Hopefully you'll get towards at least you'll understand what you're supposed to do. You might make a mistake here or there. But as far as other things, like exactly how is the deep structure of the language, you don't know that probably in your first language. Some of you know more than others because you're interested in that area. But the main thing is about growing in our abilities. So I hope that makes you feel more comfortable. And as far as conversation, like I said, it takes us a while to get comfortable with that as children in our first language. You can't get there in 8 weeks. I mean, maybe if you're a genius in that area, but there aren't many of us who are going to feel comfortable in 8 weeks. We're going to get more comfortable. In 16 weeks, too, though, there would still be so much more growth for us. So that's just part of the process. But let's have fun with it and grow. Let me know if you have any concerns or questions. And I'm excited to start communicating with you in Spanish.